This is the last conversation of our mini-series, our sharing of our own sexual consciousness and the evolution and the sexual consciousness of humanity and the evolution of sex for humanity. Today in this video I felt to share with you the how as the last conversation that kind of lead this, all the videos lead to this. So if we're to know and feel and desire and be searching for a richer sexual fulfillment, and we have a knowing that there is more to us and more to sex than the act, then how? All the conversations so far have been pointing to the how, but I will condense them into a smaller conversation. The how is when begins with an unfulfillment, a dissatisfaction, a knowing that our interactions with sex are habitual, unhealthy, unloving. They feel that they are not filling us up, but rather depleting us. We can feel that we are withdrawing from the act of sex because it's not feeling right. And it can be with a long-term partner, or it could just be that we are feeling that way about withdrawing ourselves from the act of sex completely, because what we're experiencing is no longer fitting where we are. Sometimes before this or just after this, we may go into knowing that there is a moreness and, start seeking that moreness as in, okay, well, moreness must mean that I need a new partner or I need more partners. So we may look to the external world to appease and quieten this feeling, of moreness that we have inside us. That's the beginning. That's the awareness that what we are experiencing no longer fits, no longer feels good, And then the inquiry begins. So the how is we start changing, noticing what our relationship with sex is, what we believed it to be, and then on an individual level we come back. It's about letting go, letting everything go that we believe about sex. So we inquire about our beliefs, everything we have been told, everything that we've been educated, everything that we have experienced, whether they have been moments of beauty and love in our sex, but also and pleasure and great, what we have seen then as physical great sex, and also our traumas and our experiences of abuse. It's about withdrawing from the act of sex. And that doesn't mean yes, it does. It means withdrawing from the act of sex so that we can come into newness, so that we can come into an exploration, a curiosity about what sex is beyond the act, and what unconscious patterns are we behaving from, and what attitudes are we behaving from, and what feels loving and respectful to ourselves and what no longer does. And when we can strip back and allow what no longer fits to dissolve away, it makes room, it makes space for a new understanding and a new experience. The thing about sexual consciousness is that when it's not limited and made small by our education, our attitudes, our beliefs, our past experiences, then it actually begins to, it has space to move, it has space to breathe, it has space to always be fresh and new, because it's life. And life is not still and stagnant, but often the way we live makes our life still and stagnant. So the act of sex becomes habitual. I don't just mean habitual as in the positions we are in with our partner, or the same partner, or the same days and times of the week, and the same place, maybe always the bedroom. I mean habitual as in the habitual drive behind it. Can we go to a place where without the act of sex we don't feel rejected, abandoned, unlovable, unworthy, undesirable? Can we go to those places? Can we go to those places where we don't feel damaged and we don't feel broken and we don't feel tainted and we don't feel objectified and we don't feel obligated? Can we go to those places within ourselves? And that is the how. When we can go to those places and see them for the untruth they are, then we can expand our sexual consciousness and therefore our experiences of sex, not just the act, but our individual relationship with sex. We always see sex as an act between two people, when in truth sex begins with our own relationship with it. And so at some point there is this invitation to withdraw and inquire and explore and be curious about ourselves as a sexual being. And then when we have that healing and that new perspective, and not just new perspective as in how we think about sex and what we believe about sex, but how we really feel about sex, then from that place we share with another from a much vaster place. So much of this is hard to put into words, because sex is not an act. It really does align with how we feel and who we are, and it's another way in which we express ourselves as a being in the world. And we have choices about that. We sincerely have choices about that, and that's another understanding that we have choices, where as we can go so far through life thinking and feeling that we don't have choices about sex, that this is the way sex is, this is what we are meant to do, this is how it's meant to be, this is how it's meant to feel, this is my role, this is what I need to give another. We're not giving. When we come to this place, sex is a sharing, like the sun shares its warmth. It's a sharing. It's certainly not a give and take experience at all. So this is the how. This is where we go into, firstly, withdrawing from the act of sex so that we can separate and feel a gap between the act of sex and ourselves as a sexual being, and understand and relate and know ourselves from that sexual being place, so that from that healed and full place, we then have choices about how we express that.